profile on Team 4946, the Alpha Dogs from Bolton, Ontario. We got story time with someone that Aidan knows really well, his mentor and drive coach, Parth Patel from Team 610, also a First Canada game announcer. Our youth council is back with another spotlight. Today, they're going to be talking about mental health and well-being, a topic that's important all the time. And our first guest is going to be talking about First's newest program, First Lego League Junior Discovery Edition. We have Bibic from First Robotics Canada. So before we get started, just a reminder, we are broadcasting live on Twitch. That means if you want to chat with us, hit the chat box, post your questions in chat, and we will try and get to them on the show at some point today. Also, remember, this show is about celebrating what's excellent and what's amazing in our community. So make sure you keep your questions and comments positive, energetic, and we're going to do the same on the show. So now let's introduce our first guest for today. She is the manager of the First Lego League Junior program for First Canada. She is the founder and mentor of the Waffles, both for FLL and FRC. And, you see her at all of our events doing so many things. Former Volunteer of the Year award winner. It's Bibic. Welcome, Christine.
Thanks, Karthik.
Thanks so much for being on the show. What have you got to talk to us about today?
Well, we'll start our slide deck, and I'm just going to give you an overview on First Lego League Junior Discovery Edition. Before that, I'll just tell you a little bit more about myself. So I'm the proud mom of 5 very passionate First kids, and I've been involved with First since 2006. So started off, as you said, with First Lego League, and then moved to First Lego League Junior, and then from there, First Robotics competition, and now we're into First Lego League Junior Discovery Edition. So it's a pretty exciting program, and I'm really happy to be able to tell everybody a little bit more about it. So
as you get that loaded up, Christine, when did Discovery Edition launch?
Well, last year was a test year, so I was involved in a couple of pilots, and since then it's become a full-fledged sort of a division, I guess you might call it, of First Lego League Junior. So this is sort of the first official first year. There's a lot of firsts in that.
I am pumped to hear about this.
Yeah, great. So moving on to the next slide. As you mentioned, it's the first time that this has sort of come to be, and it's aimed at ages 4 to 6, which is the youngest demographic that First has reached out to. I think we're finding more and more that the younger we can engage students in STEM activities, the easier it is to sort of hook them and sort of help guide them along as they progress through things. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the reasoning or the ideas that sort of came, that sort of led to this Discovery Edition. And as you can see here, there's guided play and STEM activities that help really develop a lot of those habits and those sort of opportunities to learn that we value throughout life, not just when they're younger, but older. And if you go to the next slide, these are the habits of learning that First has identified that they're really focusing on with this program. So listening and empathizing, teamwork, which is always great no matter how old you are, persistence, another great skill to have, learning how to take risks and sort of balancing that, wonder and questioning, applying knowledge, confidence. It really builds self-esteem and confidence as they start developing sort of their interaction and public speaking skills, and then posing questions and solving problems. So these are the sort of key things that this program is trying to focus on. And we'll go to the next slide. There we go. And that's led to First Lego League Junior Discovery Edition. So it's really key, just like all of the First programs, that it's really fun. And having been involved with a pilot last year, I can say for sure it's fun. I had fun, and I know the kids did too. And this is how it fits into the family of programs. So just like First Lego League Junior and First Lego League, this too has a team meeting guide with step-by-step sort of lesson plan layouts for the coach or mentor or teacher. And each student also receives an engineering notebook. These notebooks are very very open, so it allows for a lot of creativity, so there's no right or wrong. It's just really getting students to sort of record in whatever way. Even if they're non-readers, they can draw pictures and things like that. So it's a really great way, and it helps sort of fit into the other programs so that as they progress through, they're sort of used to these sorts of things. But I should also add that just sort of like Sparks, Brownies, and Girl Guides, it's the same kind of idea, this progression of programs. You can start at any time. You don't have to start with First LEGO League Junior Discovery Edition. You can start at First LEGO League or First LEGO League Junior. And it's really easy to deliver because of these great resources that are there. Like I said, the step-by-step meeting guide is wonderful, and it makes it really easy to implement. You sort of open a box and off you go. Skills, again, developing teamwork and sharing and just the pure joy of everything, and giving confidence once again. So those are sort of the key elements to this program. What do you need? Great question. This is the first, it's equivalent to, for First LEGO League, the EV3. This is the kit, the Steam Park set that you use year after year. So this is your investment piece. And it's a huge set. And I actually have one here beside me just to give you a sense of how big it is. See?
Whoa.
Yeah, it's
I would not have guessed
huge.
that from the picture. That's like
Exactly.
that's one of those like Death Star size sets.
Exactly. It's 295 pieces, and it's Duplo. So First LEGO League Junior Discovery Edition features Duplo. So it's nice and big and easy to handle and very colorful. And so this set,
Christine, for our
yes,
viewers who might not know, does First LEGO League Junior use Duplo as well, or are they
no,
on normal Lego bricks? Okay,
they're
so
the regular bricks.
this is the only
Yes.
Duplo program.
Yes. What I love about this set too is it's great value, because when you register, not only do you're getting the Steam Park, or you order your Steam Park set, but the Steam Park set itself also comes with curriculum. So they've got like lots of little tips, and it comes with some great inspirational cards to show you different things you might want to build with your set. So it gives teachers the opportunity to expand upon their season, or use it as sort of a build up to maybe their season as well. So it really allows you to sort of expand things, and I think that's great value. Anytime I can use things for more than one purpose, I'm all over it, because I think it's a great resource, and it makes it very, very practical.
And with those resources that you've got there, Christine, do you think
Yes.
that because you mentioned teachers, but do you think this is something that parents could handle at home with the resources?
Yeah, we'll get to that. This program currently is only available in a class size format. So it is designed for a classroom, or maybe an after school group, or a large group, because it's aimed at 30 students. So yeah, so that's a little bit different from our other programs, in that sort of it's more classroom based than the others. But it's nothing to say you couldn't get together and divide out amongst smaller groups and sort of go in together and sort of purchase one. But it's not so practical from, if you're having to buy all these sets for just, 4 or 5 kids at your home. So yeah, financially, it's not so feasible that way. And if we go to the next slide, we're going to see the other item that you need, and that's your discovery set. And here's a size of that. It's sort of a regular size box, and there's 78 pieces in that one. What I really like about this one, as you can see on the screen there, this year I thought this is really brilliant of the people at First Headquarters to come up with. Their inspiration model is this bridge. What's neat about it is it's 2 symmetrical pieces, like they're the same. So if you have a group of, say, 4 students, which is the typical size of a group you might have working on this, 2 students can build one side of the bridge, 2 students can build the other side of the bridge, and then you bring the bridges together, the 2 halves together, to create a whole. And I just love the symbolism of that, and the bridging together. And it also makes sure that there's more hands-on opportunities that are of a that are equivalent, so that they have the same sort of things that they're building, same pieces. It's exactly the same. So I really like how they did that this year, and how it sort of symbolizes the coming together of things. So that's the discovery set. And my favorite part of this whole thing, and these are something that we were introduced to many years, well, not many years ago, but several years ago, at the partner conference that FIRST hosts. And that's something called 6 bricks. And here's my 6 bricks. And these are just so much fun. Once again, all kinds of curriculum that comes with this, and this is included in your discovery set. So these are designed, like I can't even go, like there's so many things you can do with these 6 bricks. It's really, really amazing. There's lots of YouTube video resources, and Lego Education has a whole series of downloadable resources you can use with these bricks as well. And the neat part about this is Lego has made sure that there are enough sets of bricks in the discovery set that each child at the end of the season can take 2 sets of these home, one set for mom or dad, or maybe an older sibling, and one set for them, so that the learning can continue. And it goes home with a parent letter that explains how to use them, and some more resources on different things, so the kids can share what they've learned as part of their group, and they can continue the learning with their parents, perhaps inspire younger siblings that are at home, or just as a way to sort of engage. Especially, I'm thinking about times like this when we're stuck at home a little bit more than often, a little bit more than we're accustomed to. It's great to keep people busy. So I really, really love these, and I've used these even with my FRC team with some of the fun activities that you can do, because they're just fun. They're just like icebreaker type activities, and great ways to learn different things. Lots of colors too, so you're learning lots of vocabulary. So this season, what's going on? So this season is called Boomtown Build, just like First Lego League Junior. And it's pretty self-explanatory right there. It's like, it's a lot of fun. It's sharing and listening, problem solving, you name it. And it's been a great season so far. So I guess it's sort of over, but it's been really good and really fun. The neat thing about this program too, because it's a class pack type or class based, each class would hold their own celebration event or expo type of ending to their season. Normally it would include a high five line, just like the other programs would normally have. But anyway, it's a great way to celebrate, and it can look like anything, just like First Lego League Junior. So it can be in the classroom, it could be part of a parent-teacher night, or some sort of other event at a school, or maybe even at a board office. And it's an opportunity to show and express what they've been learning, and just a fun way to sort of wrap things up. And there's some tips and ideas there too in the team meeting guide to help with that as well. And implementation. So how do you get registered for this? Well, just like the other programs, you go to firstinspires.org, and there you're going to go to, you'll set up your dashboard, and you can order the materials right there. Once you've done that, I guess what you'll get with that, I guess I should say, is 30 engineering notebooks, so one for each student, 2 team meeting guides, 7 discovery sets, so those little ones like this, and the cost for that is $395 US.
That's a really good price considering you're getting 30 notebooks and 7 Lego kits.
Yes, yeah, it is. It's great. And
that's good value.
And even, like, I got to tell you, Karthik, these things, if you're to price these out on their own,
oh yeah,
they're a lot. It's like, because I did purchase some of these not that long ago, and it's like it's a lot to sort of price these out, because these don't come as a set usually. It's not sort of sold like this. You have to put them together yourself. So I really, really I think the value in this is just tremendous. And the Steam Park set you have to order separately. Just like with First Lego League, you have to order your EV3 separately. And with First Lego League Junior, you're ordering your We Do separately, but that can be used year after year. And those are available through 2 Canadian suppliers, B&B in Quebec and Spectrum in Ontario. And the cost of that is $225, and they recommend having 7 of those for a class pack. So that's a lot of Duplo for each student when you start, dividing that out.
You're putting over 2,000 Duplo pieces into a classroom.
It's fun, and it's like, it's so neat. Yeah, it's so fun. It's so fun to watch what the kids come up with. That's what I love. It's like last year during the pilot that I was involved with, it's like it was a sort of a moon theme, right? So it's like we had princesses on the moon, and it was just great. It was fun. It was really neat to see the creativity. And also I wanted to mention, because this is really, I think, spectacular, that First Robotics Canada is offering a limited number of grants. So $750 are available to offset costs for rookie teams starting up in Ontario. So that's a real plus to me too. And like I said, the value in the materials, and that they all have their sort of extra little pieces of curriculum that you can tie into your classroom. And those 6 bricks would make excellent sort of fillers in the, I can imagine teachers using those throughout the day, when there's a few minutes before lunch to fill in. And they're a way to really help kids focus and just, really have some fun with it. And they don't even know that they're learning half the time. I think it's just fun. So all of this information and information on how to apply for the grants is available on the First Robotics Canada website. I will tell you, it's a little bit tricky to get to the Discovery Edition part, in that you have to go to First Lego League Junior, and in that first opening paragraph, you'll see a link to Discovery there. And so all of the information on how to apply for those grants, how to step by step, how to go about registering, everything is all there. And I really see this as something that a lot of our FRC teams out there can get involved with. It's a great way to sort of give back to the community by getting some of these teams established. And I know with my own team, my own FRC team, it's like I've seen the benefits of having students that have gone through the earlier year programs, because they're sort of very familiar with everything by the time they hit FRC. So I think it's a real plus, a real win-win for FRC teams if they can get others involved in starting programs like this in their their classrooms.
A question I have on that exact topic, Christine, because one question we got from chat, which you kind of answered already from April, was how can FRC teams get involved in FL Junior? But you said that you see the difference in your students who come through FLL onto the FRC team. But do you see a difference in students who mentored FLL teams on then how they, if they mentor an FLL team in the fall, do you see a difference in them when they participate in the FRC team in January?
I think so. It's a different kind of set of skills that I think they come to the team with, but I think it's a really valuable set. It's a great opportunity to sort of test your leadership skills and develop those in a really friendly environment where the kids are excited, and you can try things out and just sort of test your wings a little bit. So I think it's really great, and great for volunteer hours too.
Yeah. So like say Aidan comes to you this summer, and Aidan's like,
Aidan, yay!
I want to get my FRC team to help start an FLL Junior Discovery Edition team. What do I do? What would the steps be?
Right. So there are lots of resources on the First Canada website, so that you can sort of print them off to bring in to help with a presentation or a pitch that you might be doing to a local school, for example. I think you could also sort of take just a few minutes. There's not really a whole whole lot of time required to do it, but just to familiarize yourself a little bit more with the program, you could always email, ask for help. We have slide decks that are available too to help with things like that. And yeah, just walk them through the steps of how to apply for the grant, how to register their team online, and how to order their materials. And it's really straightforward and pretty easy. But that's what I'd do if I were you, Aidan.
So Christine, yesterday we talked a lot about how the FLL and FLL Junior prepared you for the different programs, as well as FDC maybe prepared you for FRC. How do you sort of see the FLL Discovery preparing you for example, FLL Junior or FLL?
Right. Well, I think it's those teamwork skills first and foremost for me anyway. With my teams, it's like just learning how to work together, how to compromise, how to present your idea, how to share your idea, and how to sort of come to some sort of consensus maybe with your other team members. I think that's really valuable, and just started off young, like so that students get that idea of how that works, how that process really has to work, and how to make it a win-win for everybody in your group. I think that's really valuable. I think the skills they're learning in presenting, like at this age group, it's not really a formal presentation, but even talking to their teammates and explaining to their teacher maybe at the end of the day, or speaking on behalf of their small group on what their team or subgroup accomplished. It's just those little bits and pieces of and opportunities to learn more, and to be able to share. It just all comes together. It's very progressive, and it's very age appropriate too, which is nice. So, and I think with growing through the different programs, I think the comfort level is perhaps a little greater because they know what to expect. I think others can quickly catch up, but I think it does make it really nice to be able to sort of progress through all those different programs and have it be age appropriate and building on the skills that were learned in the previous program.
One question we have from the chat, Christine, from Bean Dip 7287. Sounds like a tasty question. Do FLL Junior Discovery teams come together and get judged like regular FLL Junior teams?
So First Lego League Junior is not competitive, as is the same is true for First Lego League Junior Discovery Edition. So there isn't that process. So everyone's a winner at this age, as we like to say.
At all ages, to be completely honest.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So I don't know if that answers the question or not.
I think it does. So one neat thing that I saw on one of the earlier slides I wanted to ask about, when it was the slide with all the puzzle pieces of the different skills that are learned. One was taking risks. And I really thought, I find that interesting because I know that, there's a comment about a lot of times about Gen Z that's like, this is the bubble wrap generation and they aren't ready to take risks. And I think a lot of us recognize that risk taking is a valuable skill and it's really important, especially, for people who want to be entrepreneurs and our future business owners are the ones who are going to be solving the big problems. How does Discovery Edition specifically address that?
Well, I mean, it's really integrated into the program, but just the process of going through and trying things, right, and experimenting and seeing what works and what doesn't work. It's pretty simple at this age group, but we're with this age group, but it's a great way to do it in sort of a safe, fun environment, right? Which I think helps develop that a little bit further, because it is sort of a nice way to learn how to take risks and to see the benefits, or of those risks, or to see what you've learned because of them. Because to me, it's like growing and learning it's all involves a little bit of risk, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to be able to teach people how to take risks in a safe environment where the downside isn't going to be as great as it is in various other ways.
And it's like, and it's like, as with I think all FIRST programs, you almost have to celebrate your failures as much as your successes, because that's how you learn. And I think this is a great environment for doing that.
So Christine, another question from our chat from one of our panelists today, Mr. Patel. He asks, does the FLL Junior Discovery Program offer a window into the technical world, such as programming, that
Right.
FLL, FTC, and FRC does? It seems like these skills are being developed earlier and earlier.
Yeah, this program doesn't have any programming component to it, but there obviously is a build component, and so it's focusing a little bit more on that. And I think it sometimes is a way to make it a little more comfortable for some people who have a little bit of a fear of that kind of thing. So I think that's a real plus to this program. And it makes it more affordable to be done in communities that might not have access to laptops and things in mass that you might need for something like this. So great for those communities that are a little more out of the way, and for communities that maybe just don't have those resources, it makes it more practical.
And I guess it also makes sense because you said it's classroom based, and you're not going to find many kindergarten classrooms which are going to have like at least seven sort of computers to do with this sort of thing. So that all kind of ties in and makes a lot of sense.
Yes. Well, I could really picture this being a summer camp type thing too for a younger age group, or an after school program type thing. So so lots of creativity. You can see where you can use this and where this could fit in your area.
And I'd sign up right now for a summer camp where I got to play with Duplo all day. It sounds great. Well, Christine, thanks so much for joining us today. This is great for us because I think a lot of people are still learning about Discovery Edition. I know I learned
As
a
am
lot
I.
today. Yeah, so that's really great. Do you have anything final that you want to say to the audience about Discovery Edition or about anything really?
No, well, I'm looking forward to talking later on in the week about how First Lego League Junior fits into this, but I just want to encourage FRC teams out there to really see if they can get some teams or some classrooms set up with this in their area, because I think it really offers a lot of opportunity, and I can see the benefits. It's a real win-win. So I encourage them to have a look at it, and I challenge you to see if you can at least get one in your community by next season, to see how things go.
That sounds like a great challenge. I think that our audience and we got our teams who come on for the showcase. We'll kind of remind them of this. Let's go, because we love those win-win situations. That's what it's all about.
Yes.
So thanks again, Christine, for joining us. And you'll be back on Friday to talk about FLL First Lego League Junior, right?
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. Can't wait for that.
See you then. Bye.
All right. Bye, Christine. And now, before we get ready for our next segment, let's take a look at a word from our sponsors.
When I was applying for co-ops, I was really looking for a place that would allow me to have the greatest amount of experience. And since Hatch is such a big company, I knew that I would be able to get involved with all the different groups that the company offers.
What surprised me about working at Hatch was the amount of responsibility that you're given very quickly, like once you start.
There's so many opportunities to learn, not just from specialists in the field, but also from something like Lunch and Learns, or even Safety Shares. So it's not something technical that I'm learning, but something that might help me in my everyday life.
For me to be able to just walk into their office and ask them whatever I want, to schedule a meeting whenever I want, to be able to work directly with them on building things was an insanely good experience.
As a student, I am as much valued as the other employees that are here.
I enjoy working here because people are very friendly, and this environment that they created has been more than absolute perfect.
All right, thank you, Hatch. You see Hatch represented at so many of our events here in Ontario. They're such a great sponsor. So thank you for them for everything they do. Aidan, you ready for this next segment?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this is a team that I think everyone in Ontario is pretty familiar with. They've been coming up the ranks every year with a really solid robot. And this year, man, that robot could really fire. We got Team 494060, the Alpha Dogs from Toronto, Ontario. They've been involved in FRC since 2014. They're actually from Bolton, Ontario. They were winners of the 2017 Durham College District event. And today on the show, we have one of our youth council members and Dean's List winner at the championship in 2019, Param, and we have Connor. Hey, how's it going?
It's going really well. Super excited to be on the show today and show off a little bit about a robot design and some of the strategy and scouting that goes into it.
All right, and even before we get started, we have a little bit of a reveal video, right?
Yes.
All right, let's take a look at this video to tee up Team 4946. That was a legit video. I'm pumped now. All right, so Param, Connor, tell us about Slim Jim.
Definitely. So, hey guys, we're Team 4946, the Alpha Dogs. And today, as we move on to the next slide, we're going to be talking to you guys a little bit about our robot design, what goes into it, and also a bit of a scouting showcase. So I'm going to hand it off to Connor to, kick things off.
Alrighty, thanks, Graham. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about our strategy and how we decided to build our robot. So we first looked at the game and we decided that there were three main defensive zones that we wanted to avoid. So while we wanted to have 2 intakes and we wanted to be able to shoot very quickly, we wanted to avoid these defensive zones. So the first one would be at the loading station, where teams could block you when you're trying to pick up the balls. And there's also a defensive zone at the shooting zone. So to avoid the shooting zone, we decided that we would want our robot to shoot from the trench. And then there's also another defensive zone in the middle there where you don't want to go through the rendezvous point because the robot could defend you there. So we decided, you know what, we can avoid that by going through the trench. And by being a short robot, we were able to avoid 2 of these 3 defensive zones. And because we didn't want to get hit by defense, kind of like how important it was last year, we wanted to avoid that completely. And this year, it wasn't really a problem for us at Durham. We were able to get our cycles done as fast as we wanted. And again, after all that was complete, we wanted a super fast climber to be able to get those points and ranking points at the end.
So yeah, those key points definitely influence the way that we designed our robot this season. And everything has to start off with having a very robust drivetrain. So we decided to go with an 8-wheel West Coast drive. And for those of you who don't know in the audience, a West Coast drive is a tank drive, but the center wheels are dropped. So if it's a 6-wheel, the center 2 wheels are dropped. And then if it's 8-wheel, then you have the center 4 that are dropped. And what this does, it allows for your robot to be able to turn a little bit more easily. But we went 8 wheels over 6 wheels because we wanted that additional stability when we were shooting. Because if you have a West Coast with a drop center and you suddenly stop your robot, it may be jolted forwards or a little bit backwards just by a teeny bit, and that can throw off your shot. So we decided that we wanted to go with 8 wheels to make sure that our robot was super stable whenever it was shooting. And we also went with a 2-speed gearbox, so we were able to, just in case we encountered any defense, we'd be able to push it out of the way. And we also have a fast gearing so that we can zip through the field. And here you can see some CAD models of our gearboxes along with the drivetrain.
Hey, Param, I'm just looking at the side rails that you have, that 1x1 tube with the really intense lightning pattern. That looks cool.
Thank you. Weight was definitely something that our team had to keep in mind this year. So we kind of just went ham.
Is that 1/8 wall tube or?
Yes, I believe so. So moving on, we decided that in looking at past games, we realized that intaking on one side and shooting from the other side would lead to a reduction in cycle time. And this is because your robot has to turn less, which eliminates that entire process of turning around. And we originally designed for our robot to have intakes on both sides of the robot. But for Durham College, we only ended up having 1 intake because we didn't feel that it was necessary yet. We weren't at that level of play where that shaving off those couple of seconds in the cycles would make that much of a difference. And also we were experiencing a lot of weight issues. So we ended up only going with the one intake. But how this works is that you can see we use 3D printed mechanisms from Team 125, Neutrons, thank you very much. And those have been super useful for us to center the robot, center the balls when they go into the robot. And you can see the little belts that just guide the balls into the robot so they don't fall out or get shot out accidentally. And on the next slide, we have a video of the intake in action. So just lining up, and then you can see that it centers them as it goes into the robot. And yeah, we wanted to have them on both sides, but we only managed to get one for the first event that we went to, because we had, of course, planned for more, but that didn't end up happening. So yeah. So then after this finishes, we can move on to the next one. So we went through a lot of prototyping when it came to deciding how we were going to be manipulating the balls within the robot. So this was a very early prototype that we had constructed. We had a conveyor design which would have belts going from both sides of the robot towards the middle where we wanted the turret to be. And this would get the balls in from both sides, but we encountered a jamming issue, because if we had two balls coming in at once trying to go up the middle, they would jam. And we realized that maybe because of this wasn't the most effective solution and would make our feeding much, much slower. So we moved away from this designing after some prototyping that we did out of wood, as you can see here. And we realized that it didn't work, and then we were able to learn from that and move on. And we ended up switching to a revolver design. So as you can see in the videos, the revolver spins and while the robot is shooting, and it will take the balls right into the turret area where an omni wheel scoops them up and feeds them right into the shooter. And you can see the CAD model on the left side. There was a previous iteration of the revolver where the side was fixed, but the bottom spun. But what we realized when testing it was that this would just cause the balls to spin in place, because there was having spinning force from one side, but the outside was still fixed. So there was friction stopping it from moving. So we ended up, as you can see in the video, making a tiny little polycarb ring that went around and spun along with it as well. And that ended up working super well for us. And that's what we ended up using on our competition robot. Next slide. And as many other teams did, we also decided to prototype our shooter thoroughly before we actually made anything. So there were a couple things we were testing here, mainly the compression of the ball and the release angle and how the input of the ball affected the shot. So as you'll see here in the slow-mo that we did, the way the ball was actually fed into the shooter affected the accuracy of the shot by a lot. And also the compression of the ball made a huge difference, because as we saw in competitions, for those that watch the live streams, some of the balls were in considerably worse shape than others. So we had to take this into consideration. So these balls responded well to, we found, about like an inch of compression. So we decided to stick with that. Also, you can see in the shooter prototyping, most teams went for a full hood, while we decided on a rail design. And what these rails did is that they automatically aligned the ball to the very center of the flywheel when it was being shot out. So this way we improved our shooting accuracy, which was something that we were really trying to do with this design.
So Prem, if you don't mind me asking, it looks like you have in your shooter prototype, looks like you have some fairly large inertia wheels. What made you decide on using the wheels firstly, and also what weight you used?
So the ones that ended up on our final competition robot were incredibly overkill. We had 2 flywheels on either side, 3 pounds each, and then the big wheel in the middle was a pound. So we had 7 pounds total, and it was powered by 2 Falcons. And we wanted there to be as little of an inertia drop off for every single ball that we shot, because again, we want consistency. So if you have a super heavy flywheel, it's got a lot of mass behind it. When you fire off a shot, it's not going to be dropping your RPM as much. It's not going to be slowing down that shooter wheel. So when the next ball comes up, it's going to have almost the same speed that the first one went out with. We tested this at Durham and it worked out super well, but we were actually going to be dropping the weight by around 2/3. So it would be probably 3 pounds in total for Windsor if we had gotten the chance to compete.
Param and Connor, so what was the approximate spin up time, and what was the approximate time to get back up to shooting RPM between shots?
Connor, you want to take this one?
I believe, so to start the match, our initial problem with this heavy flywheel was that it took like 20 seconds to shoot up an auto. So if you noticed at Durham, all of our autos, we shot like at the last few seconds of the autonomous period because it took up so much time for our shot to wire up. So we weren't able to actually go do a trench auto or something because to do those, you have to fire off your 3 shots at the beginning right away to be able to have time to do the rest. So that's why we ended up cutting it down. So Graham, I'm not sure the exact numbers of the spin up.
It's an approximation, but
I think it was 20 seconds it took, and then we cut it down with the Falcons to about 12.
Okay.
Which was able to give us an auto at all. Because going into Durham, we had Neos on our shooter, and we weren't able to have an auto because it didn't spin up quick enough. So then we cut it down to Falcons, which gave us enough, but it was still not enough. So we cut down our flywheel weight.
Yeah, very interesting. I think that's one of the trade-offs is when you go with that heavy weight, it's great because you can really just like fire the bang, 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 bang shot. But at the same time, the spin-up times can be a lot. And did you have much variance in your shot velocity in that? Like, I'm wondering if you were trying to take a trench shot, which needs to be like, let's say like 7,000 RPM, are you able to slow it down to like 3,000 RPM to take a close shot with that heavy, with those 7-pound weights?
Yes, we are able to do that. However, if you look in the next slide, we also have a completely adjustable hood. So what that is using, it has 2 rev servos, and it's going onto a custom gear that we have created, which is onto the 2 rails, which are also have a custom like gear rack, and they're curved, basically rack and pinions. And that allows us to change our shot angle. So we don't actually have to vary the RPMs as much because we can just simply change the hood angle, and that will allow us to shoot from a different location, for example. Right. And when we were shooting, you wouldn't see that much of a variance. Like if we shot off a ball, the next shot would come out at almost the exact same velocity because of the crazy amount of mass we have on there.
This is when you saw, and you're saying like, oh, we had to slow down to do that close shot. If you notice, when we went to do that close shot, we didn't. We just aimed our hood a little lower so that it could shoot higher, and we just rammed it off the ceiling of the inner port.
Makes a lot of sense.
Shot it as hard as we could, yeah.
And you can see the full extension on the middle picture where you can see the hood fully extended, and that's our angle that we calculated. And that system can shoot from super close and super far, where we're able to do long bombs if we want to. Also, you can see the Omni feeding system. So that entire tube is fixed to the turret. So when the turret rotates, that Omni wheel also rotates along with it. And that scoops up the balls from the revolver, and it makes sure that they're coming in at a constant velocity as well. And as long as you have a consistent feed, then that improves your consistent shot. So that was the philosophy we had behind this. And we also had the limelight mounted in the front, and we had a linear a 10-turn potentiometer on the hood to make sure that we knew where our angles were. Next slide. And here you can see our climber. Our climber actually went through a lot of different design changes, lots of prototyping. And the main thing that we wanted to do with the climber was we realized that we were running out of weight. So we really speed hold a lot out of it. And we originally had a much heavier climb, which got whittled down to this because we used to have gearboxes on either side. And then we ended up changing the design so that there would just be one gearbox, which winches up the entire robot. And originally we used Neos on this too, and we realized that they weren't strong enough. We swapped them out with Falcons, and it ended up working. So this is actually footage of our first climb ever, which was done, I think, the day before or 2 days before Durham.
Yeah, and you can see we didn't have the rubber on the hook yet, so we had to hold it up so the robot didn't slide down the
slide. Yeah.
Yeah. But after we added the rubber, everything was okay.
And so you mentioned a couple places where you switched from Neos to Falcons. Was the change really that dramatic?
Well, for us, it happened to be really that dramatic because we noticed an immediate improvement in firstly, our climb, because with Neos and the exact same gearboxes, the climb didn't work at all. The only thing we did was swap to Falcons, and it started working. So there was obviously an increase in torque that we found from that. And we also saw that immediate drop down in spin up time when swapping the Neos to Falcons. So we were able to get that auto off So for us, Falcons have been working very well. Next slide. And here you can just see the design process or evolution of our robot design, starting at top left, moving to bottom right. You can see our old conveyor designs and our super preliminary shooter designs, which got changed and changed and changed. And then at the bottom right, you can see us finally starting to develop that adjustable hood, along with swapping it out for a more robust revolver mechanism. And next slide. Then you can see the climber being added on, where it's in a horizontal position, which then turns vertical and then gets extended out. And then there's just finishing touches from there. And then that is the final robot that we ended up with. And for Windsor, we were probably going to be taking off the Wheel of Fortune mechanism because we noticed that not many teams were using it. And now Connor will tell us a little bit about our scouting.
Alrighty, so every year, well, for the past few years, we've had an app for our scouting, so I've been able to use that and learn from it. And every year we've gotten better at it. So this year, we always want to get new things and different things that are going to be able to so we can understand how different robots run their matches and how they compete. So you can see in the first image on the left there, we broke it down, the shooting zones into 3 different zones. The blue is from the trench, the red is more a midfield shot, and then the yellow is the close shot. So this was a key part that I wanted to learn for our defense robots on our alliance, where, for example, if one team always goes up to the, they stay in, like just behind the auto line, you're able to defend them. You can push them against that auto line. But if they're in the trench, there's no point in bothering to put a defensive robot there. And so knowing that going to the match, we can plan accurately. Now, all of this is a little bit much for our scouts. And a lot of people we noticed, and I knew this was going to happen, that we would tell the scouts, okay, did they shoot 3 in the inner, or did they shoot 3 low? Did they shoot 3 outer? I just told my scouts, tell me how many balls they got in. And you can see that in the second screenshot. So if they clicked, we had our app, you had a picture of the field. They would click in the midfield, and that GUI would pop up saying the scores, how many, and you'd input how many they scored, how many they missed. And from there, I would just use, to understand if they got a low or a high shot, I would use pre-scouting and pit scouting. So I went out around on the load-in day and I learned, okay, this team shoots high, this team shoots low. So on our graph, for example, from Durham, we had Beaverworks as one of the top shooting robots, but in our pit scouting, they're low bots, so you discount that a little bit. But that was a way to make it a little bit easier for our scouts, so they don't have to spend as much time picking the little details in the app, and they could focus on the crazy matches that were going on in those balls. And on the right, you can see the menu of our app. So we had a timer in our app, and it tells you how much time they spent on each game mechanism. So how much time they spent on endgame. And if you noticed that they spent so much time on endgame, we could block their climbs, for example, or we could also see how much time they spent on offense and defense. So for example, if a team spent like half their time on defense and half their time on offense, and their offensive scores were pretty good, we could put them on offense for the whole match and they would be really good. So we wanted to be able to analyze teams for time spent on offense and not, well, they were playing defense half the match. How can you compare this team to this team who spent all their time on offense? So it's just another way to get more accurate data and see what a team was doing for most of the match. And if they were doing nothing, you know if they're doing nothing. Next slide. And so I was able to produce these charts and graphs so I can see, this is ourselves from Durham. You can see a game time spent chart there. So you can tell we only played defense 1 match when our climber popped out because we had no air. That was fun. And you can see our shot distribution. So most of our event we spent from up close in front of the auto line because we didn't have to spin up as fast, didn't have to spin up as long as we could shoot. And then we saw as we spent more and more the event go by, we tried to shoot more from the trench so we were protected, no defense was involved. You can see though that our shooting percentage was a little lower there. And then overall, you can gradually see us getting better through the event other than match 53 where our climber came out. But overall, other than those 2 little other games where our revolver was getting jammed, everything was good and we played really well and we're really happy with our results. So overall, yeah, our scouting's evolved a lot over the years since I've been in charge of it and really proud of it.
So Connor, this scouting application, did you code this yourself, or is this something that you guys found?
I got Jacob, our programming lead, to code it for me. I just tell him, hey, can you do this, this, this? And he's like, yeah, here you go. He gets it all ready for me. And then I work on the spreadsheet side and creating our pick list and going up for alliance selection.
Right. And so this app, was this done Android Studio or?
I'm not sure how he did it, but I know it runs on our Android. We have tablets.
Okay.
And then it connects. So all of the tablets, they get the record of the match and they send it through Bluetooth to my laptop. So there's no Wi-Fi involved or anything. There's no QR codes. It's just a simple, they press send and I have them paired to my laptop. And from my laptop, it puts it all into an Excel spreadsheet. And then I can copy that into a Google Sheet.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Just getting a little bit off topic here, but how scouting used to be just kind of like a very mathematical and a data collection area, but now it's become almost like a coding solution. Where so many teams have moved to electronics with scouting apps, and then using high-end data analysis tools to put together the types of graphs and stuff with everything you've done. So that's pretty cool. Aidan, do you have any questions for the team?
I personally don't have any questions. I've talked with Param a lot, so I think he's answered most of them, but we do have some questions from the chat. One from Namiruni. I feel like I butchered that.
That's probably Namira.
That's probably Namira, yeah. Can you explain the name of your robot?
Yes. So our robots are always named after previous year's team members or team captains or MVPs. So last year's robot was named after a team member who graduated the year previous. So our robot name was Papa Bori, and this year's robot name was Slim Jim, honoring a previous build team captain that we had named Liam James. So we like to keep that, type of alumni appreciation within the team, and it just shows them that they're appreciated and their hard work has led to the creation of this robot.
I can't wait for like a few years when there's a Param or Connor named robot. Then that's what I want to see. A question from Sills in chat. Did you have any issues with your shifting gearbox, and would you recommend them to other teams?
We personally didn't have many issues with the actual shifting, except for the time we lost air, but that was unrelated. We just use a simple ball shifter using a pancake. If you are an experienced team and you're looking to get that additional variation in your drive, for example, if you anticipate that you'll be under a lot of defense because your shot is super good or something like that, then yes, the ball shifter is worth it. But other times it's also up to driver preference. So for example, our driver, he prefers the low gear. So we were actually planning to take off the high for Windsor because he didn't like using it as much. So again, it's a lot about what your driver prefers and what you anticipate the year's challenge will be. But yes, ball shifters, good.
So just another question from the chat, from our next panelist. Pre-season postponement, would you say you were really happy with the overall shooter, or would you have made some changes to take advantage of auto, seeing as it was a huge point gain?
So definitely we were going to be working a lot on our autos for Windsor because we were anticipating that to be the big blockbuster competition for us. And we were going to be working on autos, shaving down the flywheel spin up time by reducing some of the mass on the shooter so that we could spin up faster and actually get a trench auto or the middle ball auto. So yeah, autonomous was definitely a huge priority pre-post moment.
You mentioned that you made some changes to the shooter to reduce the weight of the flywheels and whatever. Was that mainly to improve the shooter, or were you running up against weight issues? And the question from the chat is, what was your robot weight?
Our robot was 123.6.
Okay, so some breathing room.
That was after all those changes, but though I think a week and a half before competition, we were at like 141 with both of our intakes on. So it was a little much. So we had to cut down our climber. We cut down the intake. And we got rid of an intake. But now to get that intake back on for Windsor, we planned on cutting down the shooter wheel, which wasn't really a factor of making our shooter better. Our shooter was great. We were happy with it. But it was just so that we can have an intake and make our robot better in other places.
Yeah, and it would help us get that other intake back on, and it would also help up our robot spin up time. So reducing the flywheels was a win-win, as Karthik loves to say.
Yeah. A question from Parth. Do you think that the added benefit of your double intake was evident, or was it a small contributor? And a question that I'll just tag on there is, do you think you would have gotten that second intake on for Windsor, or was that more of a DCMP thing, or is that more of a World Champs thing?
100%. Yeah. Okay, go
the
for it.
second intake is on the robot right now. Like we had put it on right the week after Durham. We had to slightly adjust the design because they were kind of hitting and knocking into the revolver. So he's adjusted the design a little bit so they were off on the side a little bit more. But yeah, they were already on. They're ready to go for Windsor.
And 100%, we definitely anticipated it would have made a difference in our cycle times because many teams don't realize this, but turning a robot actually takes more time than you expect sometimes, especially when you're under defense. But if you just slide up against the balls and you reverse right out, it reduces a lot of cycling, especially when you're under defense. So I think that it would have helped a lot. And you saw teams last year, such as, for example, Celtex, they were intaking the ball on one side and then placing it on the other. And that also shaved off some cycle times that they had.
One other question that we have from the chat, and I'm not sure if either of you will be able to speak to it, but you can try. How is the programming for your robot organized? Do you have like a high-level explanation?
High-level explanation?
Yeah. There's code. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one of those things with FRC teams. Like some of the stuff is so specific that you need to have the specific people on to talk about it, and that's totally cool as well. So, we're coming down towards the end of the segment here, but do either of you have any final things you'd like to say about your robot or about your team or about FIRST or anything you'd like?
Byron, want to take a gander?
Sure. It's awesome being on here, first of all. And would have liked to see you all guys at Windsor and DCMP, hopefully. Hopefully those get rescheduled because we're ready to go. We have the robot, like we're still kind of making a few tinkers and trying to make it better, but we really hope to compete again. That's our plan. And we were really happy to win the Engineering Inspiration Award at Durham. That was a nice surprise for us. Thanks to Param and our business team for working really hard on that, and really our whole team.
Actually, Param, can you give us like a 1-minute synopsis of why you won that Engineering Inspiration Award?
Okay, let's go.
Because it's important to talk about the other side of things too.
Definitely. So Engineering Inspiration Award, I like to think of it as what has your team done in 1 year? And it's basically highlighting your relationship with the community, relationship with your sponsors, business plan, outreach, and also a little bit about your robot and team management, all that type of structure. So we have a very rigorous business plan. It's like, I think about 40, 50 pages. And that basically dictates how our team runs. And it's super duper specific and organized. And it has a lot of, what do we call them? It has a lot of cost benefit analysis. It has risks. It has everything broken down. It also has all of our budgeting done perfectly. We also have FLL teams that we're mentoring, which I think definitely contributed to that win. And I think that our strong relationship with our sponsors, which we cannot thank enough, has allowed us to win the Engineering Inspiration this season. And we look forward to winning more awards next season.
Well, I mean, I think we can all agree that we're definitely inspired by what the Alpha Dogs are doing. So thank you, Param. Thank you for Connor for being on the show. That's a really cool robot. Your team's up and coming, and I can't wait till you can show off the double-sided intake and all the improvements that you've made to the entire world, because we all want to see it. So we're going to get ready for our next segment. Thank you to the Alpha Dogs. But before we do that, let's have a word from our sponsors.
What I value most about Lakeside and Lakeside's culture is the extracurricular activity or involvement that Lakeside has with organizations such as FIRST. Having a partnership with FIRST is really important to me because I part-time teach kids robotics, and I am an advocate for women in STEM and women in engineering and kind of overcoming that, stigma or that appearance of what people in certain fields look like. And so the fact that Lakeside has an alliance with FIRST Robotics shows that it aligns their values with my values, and that's really important to me.
Thank you, Lakeside. And now we are back. And hey, Aidan, are you excited for this segment?
Excited, nervous, little bit more excitement, I'd say.
Well, I think this point the tables are a little bit turned here because you get to ask the questions. It's not the teacher in front of the room asking you all the questions. So I'd like to introduce our next guest. He is a First Canada game announcer, was a First Canada FTA, an alum of Team 188. He won a world championship with Team 1241 as a mentor in 2013. And now he's a mentor, teacher, and drive coach for Team 610 Crescent Robotics. Let's introduce Mr. Parth Patel.
Hey everyone, it's great to be here. Thanks Karthik, thanks Aidan.
Yeah, thanks for joining us all the way from Brampton. What up, B-Town?
Hey, B-Town represent.
That's right, buddy. So let's get things started. You've been doing FIRST for a long time. You've made it's another one of our guests who was a student in the program who's made the full journey. So tell us a little bit about your FIRST story.
Yeah, it's actually a really cool story, or at least I think it's really cool. When I was younger, my brother attended Woburn Collegiate, which we all know, or if you don't know, is the home of Team 188, the original Canadian team. So growing up, I've been around Woburn Collegiate a lot, and so seeing their robotics program, it inspired me. Maybe I was 9 years old when I decided I wanted to be a programmer. So the goal was to go to Woburn at some point, but and then we ended up moving away, and Woburn was no longer my home school. But then my middle school offered a FLL program when I was in grade 8. So I actually started with FLL. So like Christine's talk was really cool because it brought me back to some of the old Lego days. And then I was a programmer for my team there, and that was a really cool experience. And then coolest part of the story is actually in our first year we qualified for the provincials for FLL, which actually at the time were hosted at the field house at Crescent School. And so the first time I ever attended Crescent, I saw 610's FRC robot on display at the FLL provincials. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like I have to do FRC. And so I was applying to high schools at the time. I didn't want to go to my home school because they didn't have a robotics program. So I applied for the science, technology, mathematics program at Woburn Collegiate, which was experimental at the time. A huge part of that was Mr. Mark Bredner. He was vice principal at the time at the school. And some of the teachers there were great too. So I finally ended up at Woburn and ended up on Team 188. Didn't do anything really in my grade 9 year. I was just there for the ride.
Like so much of us were.
Yeah, you know what? I have to admit, it was intimidating in grade 9. Like it really was. There was just a lot going on. And I had some great people there in the room. Shout out to Hans and Lamb, who really helped me kind of find my role on the team. And yeah, and then 188, and then went away to school at UOIT, or I guess now known as Ontario Tech University. And then I went back to mentor 188 for a couple of years. As you mentioned, won a championship with 1241 in 2013 because 188 didn't have a season that year. Went back to 188, went back to 1241 for a year in 2016. And then I ended up finding what I like to think of as my dream job at Crescent School. Teaching was always a long-term goal for me. So when I got the opportunity to take over for my former mentor, Mr. Sean Lim, at Crescent School, it felt like such a great opportunity that I couldn't turn down. And then here we are with 610, 4 years later.
That's a journey right there. So the segment's called Story Time, and we bring people on to tell some of their favorite first stories. And you've been around for a lot, as evidenced by that complete journey that you just took. Aidan, were you familiar with Parth's whole journey?
I had heard little snippets of it, but I had only heard as much as you said in the intro. So a lot of that was new to me.
That's pretty cool, man. You got to be telling your students these stories. Like this is the good stuff.
Well, usually what happens. So one of the things that I do story time with my drive team. Between events and like sometimes during events between days. We only had one event this year, so I didn't get a lot of stories. I didn't have a lot of time to share my stories, but story time with the kids is a lot of fun. We end up mostly just talking about all the crazy things that used to happen in the early days. One of my favorite stories is actually, you told it to me, Karthik, is 2002 with the BD robot and just how dominant that thing was. And just like some of those stories that was
Baby Beast.
Right, yeah, Team 71 and 4-time world champions, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. The first team to win 4. They won,
right,
1997 and 2004.
Which is just wild to me, especially back then, to be so dominant. So it was just, there's a lot of stories, and I love sharing the stories with the kids. But with this season being short, maybe I'll have to find a different medium to do that in.
How about you do that right now with First Canada Live and tell your favorite first story?
my favorite first story. Okay, I can't say it's my favorite, but this is a story that I think is worth sharing because I've finally gotten over the guilt for this. So for anyone who's old enough to remember, in 2009, the lunacy year, Team 188 infamously or famously didn't make it to the field after a timeout was called by their alliance. Nothing was wrong with Team 188's robot. It was actually Team 610's robot that was having the issues. And I was the lead programmer for Team 188 at the time. And that became the infamous, 180 gate, has been dubbed since. So the part of the story that a lot of people don't know is the timeout was called for 610's intake roller being broken. But the reason why 188 didn't make the field was because I insisted to my mentor, Mr. Sean Lim at the time, that I could make our autonomous like ever slightly better. And I don't even remember what it was about anymore, but I insisted on making a change, but we had a crappy laptop and it took almost the entirety of the timeout just for me to get the code compiled and download it to the robot. At which point we've got volunteers yelling at us, like, you got to get on the field. You have like 30 seconds left. And I remember in flashes now, but I remember Carson Lamb, a good friend of mine on the team at the time, he jumped onto the robot cart with the robot on it as we're pulling it to the field. And he's doing a battery swap while riding the robot cart on the way to the field. I hear the buzzer go, and there's a lot of just confusion around what's going on. And yeah, just a code push that didn't need to happen and a code change that didn't need to happen cost us getting on the field there. And I believe at the time 188 and 610 and 1305 were actually up 1-0 in the finals against 1114, 2056. Oh no, they weren't. No, they weren't. It was a close match, but then there was a supercell being scored, and 2009 was a really bad game that was fun to play.
That's one way to put it. So you mentioned the gate story, and I think it's really interesting because for our younger viewers or the ones who are the students right now, that just sounds like completely foreign because that just doesn't happen in Ontario anymore. We don't play matches 3-on-2 unless it's like the team basically says, yeah, we're not coming out for this match. And you've been, there's been a few of us who've been the driving forces behind that culture, and you've been an FTA in the province. So can you talk a little bit about the Ontario philosophy on getting all the teams out there for matches?
Well, I think it starts even above some of the FTAs and starts right at the organization level. I know right at the First Canada staff level, there's people on staff that just, the mentality is these teams are here to play matches and they've paid money to play these matches. They're customers, right? And that's what they are. And so nobody wants to watch a finals match with only 5 robots or less on the field. Let's get all 6 robots out there. Having the very personal experience of not being allowed onto the field during a finals match, I have to say that, for me, it was a big deal. It was a big deal to say to teams like, okay, like the buzzer has gone, yes, but like you're clearly making an active effort to try and get to the field. I think there's some leniency there. And I think as long as you're not, taking your entire robot apart and reassembling it during the 6-minute field timeout and likely not going to finish, I think most of the volunteers and like I said, First Canada staff members are really okay with that. And I know now, with Aidan, we had a fun issue at, they talked about it yesterday on the segment, but we had our wheel fault, like our bearing just get destroyed at Durham. That was a change we were never going to be able to fix during a timeout. But it was really nice knowing that even though I'm not the FTA at the event, I'm drive coaching, that those volunteers were looking out for our team and our team experience, which I think is great in Ontario.
Right. I think the whole kind of concept is as long as the team's not trying to abuse the generosity, which rarely ever happens because it's first. That's just not a thing that that you see. Like our culture is different that way. But as long as no one's trying to abuse it, it's like, yeah, let's give the teams. And what I find so interesting is that almost always it's the opposing alliance that'll come to the volunteers and be like, hey, do they need more time? Because like we're good. Like we're good with them having that extra time because everyone wants to play these fair matchups. And I think that's really cool stuff. So let's shift topics a little bit. We'll come back to the direct world of robots, but let's go with the indirect world of robots. Aidan, you got a question for Mr. Patel?
I do. So you brought up that you went to UIT. I know the answer to this question, but I know probably nobody else does. So why did you choose the program that you did? And as well, how come you chose to go to UIT? Or sorry,
Yeah,
Ontario Tech U.
Right. It'll always be UIT for me. Yeah, so I think, I'll answer the program first. I was 8 years old when my brother took his first computer science course with my favorite teacher of all time, Miss Maria Plakta at Woburn Collegiate Institute. And like, she was just amazing. But I was watching him do some homework assignment on the programming language called Pascal at the time. And I decided that I was going to be a computer engineer. I saw him do his homework. I'm like, that's what I'm going to do for a living. I don't know what it was about it that just got me going, but so software engineering was the goal. Ultimately, that changed over time from when I was 8. But the choice for UIT was very interesting for me. I actually did a 5th year in high school. There was no grade 13 when I was in school, but I wasn't really ready for university. And so I decided to stay the extra year. And when I really figured things out, I realized that the thing that was most important to me was the fact that I really wanted to learn from an institution where like the technology and the campus and everything was a little bit newer. I really liked that UIT was a very, very new school. And I'd actually been to campus a few times visiting some friends who were years above me. And I really liked the campus. I really liked the program they had to offer. And I really enjoyed the fact that a lot of my friends got into, so there's a social aspect. We all decided to go there. And the Durham event was held there. So, it was important to me to go to a school where there was a first connection. And I'm going to do a bit of a pitch here, but I didn't do this. Don't be like me. Please. A lot of schools offer scholarships, UIT included, and I didn't apply, but you should. If you're a high school student and you're graduating, please apply to those scholarships. In my year, nobody applied and that money just did not get used. If no one applies and you're the only one, you're getting that money. So please, please, please apply to those scholarships. There's lots of money available out there.
That's really, really good advice. And tying into advice, that normally we talked a little bit about your career and all that sort of stuff, but I find Parth in our conversations I always find that like I'm learning from you, I'm being inspired by you, and it's like it's always cool to talk about this stuff. But like, what's some advice that you can give to the students out there right now? Like, what's the best piece of advice that you have?
Yeah, I think my best piece of advice is something that's a teacher shared with me when I was having a tough time in high school, is really figure out what you're passionate about and really chase that down, because we all have things we don't enjoy, and sometimes we have to suffer through the things that we don't enjoy, but really trying to find the thing that you're passionate about and putting all your time and effort into that. Even if you're not the best at it, you can get better over time, and you can really, really just have fun while you're doing it. And so I'm very competitive with FRC, and it's something I'm very passionate about, but even when I'm competitive, I can still manage to find my fun in that. So my biggest piece of advice is find what you're passionate about. It doesn't have to be FRC, doesn't have to be STEM, but find what you're passionate about. But just stick to it.
So just another question. So who currently or previously has inspired you the most, like to pursue your career or just in general?
Oh man, there's so many people that come to mind for this. Like I said, I didn't have a great time through high school. I was going through some things, and it was a rough go for a bit. But I mentioned her earlier, but Miss Maria Plakta, she was just an inspirational woman, and it was great to see how amazing she was at what she did. With regards to the computer science program at Woburn Collegiate Institute, was one of the best programs in Canada, if not the world at the time. They were competing at the CCO and the IOI level, earning gold, silver, and bronze medals year over year. So they were doing really well, and she was just very inspirational to me with just how passionate she was about excellence. Her grading system down to the way she taught, it was just all about learning. And for me, school hasn't really been easy. I'm not the most academically gifted student, but I enjoy learning. I really, really enjoy just being in a classroom setting and actually learning and gaining knowledge and skills. So she was fantastic for that. And a shout out to Team Panthera Tech's lead mentor, Mr. Eric Lee. he was a big inspiration for me, helped me get through a lot of those tough times, just having those one-on-one conversations with me. He's actually a guidance counselor now, which I think is a perfect fit for him, because he served as that role to me in that capacity when I was in high school. So huge shout out to him. Thanks, Mr. Lee.
Those are some inspiring stories right there, and some inspiring people. We got a lot of questions in chat, Parth. Everyone wants to hear from you. So the first question is from Kunj P188. Hey, Parth. What's the biggest difference from just being a mentor on 188 or 1241 to being a teacher on 610?
Well, I mean, I guess the biggest difference is the responsibilities that come with being there every day, right? As an alumni mentor, maybe you're not there 24/7, right? You're not there with the kids during the school day. You're not there with the kids perhaps every day after school because you've got university classes or midterms or whatever it is you've got going on. So I think the biggest difference is the amount of time you spend with the kids. And it's been very, very positive for me. The best part of my job, and I don't just mean teaching, I mean being a mentor as well. The best part of my job is the time I get to spend with kids, the time I get to spend, having a conversation with Aidan. And more often than not, that's what happens after 7 o'clock when we try to leave the lab. Aidan sits on the workbench and just starts asking me questions. And then now 7 o'clock turns into 9 o'clock with just me talking to him for two and a half hours, whatever it is. So, that's really the biggest difference, is that you're there every day. You see these kids develop socially, you see these kids develop academically. And obviously there's the classroom management and classroom teaching side of it, which is obviously different because it's my day job. But on the mentorship side, yeah, it's great to have the extra time to develop those relationships, and you see them in different capacities throughout the day, which I think is fantastic.
So, sir, just another question from the chat. Oh, I'm calling you sir again. This is another thing, like he is as well my teacher, if you didn't pick up on that. So question from
it's the same way I was calling Mr. Bredner during my segment with him,
yeah.
and I haven't had him as a teacher in 20 years.
So just another question from the chat from Arjot Singh. Parth, tell us about the best advice you've received during your time coaching. Something that stands out to you and all.
Oh my God. I'm gonna go back. This wasn't advice I got when I was coaching, but it's advice from I won't name him, but it's advice from somebody on First Canada. And it was advice that was actually given to a driver on Team 188. Driver was Kaj, and the advice that was given to him was drive like you stole it. And so that's the best piece of advice I use when I'm coaching. We have actually somebody on this panel right now who is my driver. So Aidan, what's our policy when there are objects in your way? What do you do?
Go through them.
You go through them. Yeah. So it's that's been the best advice in terms of I've built a lot of my stuff around it, but there's been other good advice too. I've had people tell me, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I want to go back to that one because that's really interesting, because I know there are some drive coaches who swear by the opposite. They swear that being in a pushing battle is only a waste of time and always go around. And for example, I'm almost certain that it's Jim Zondag who, is considered one of the best, forget about the word considered, believe in a totally different school of thought. And I think that's one of the really interesting things when it comes to first strategy, is that there's so many different schools of thoughts on this thing, and nothing is absolute. You've had immense success as a drive coach. Zondag's had immense success as a drive coach. And so it's really interesting that there can be two very contrary philosophies, but they both work out. It's the same sort of thing with the NFL. There's the teams who are just so intensely establishing the run, while modern theory in the NFL now is like, no, you need to establish the pass. So that's very cool.
Yeah, it's always up for debate, and it always makes for good discussion. I know some of my coaching friends on other teams definitely don't agree with that mentality either. But it's something that I found works for us and the way that 610 likes to play our game.
Well, that's interesting, because I'm going to jump ahead to another question we have in chat from someone who's probably on 610, Elon 610. Any chances that 610 does swerve in the next 5 years, which seems kind of contrary to what you're talking about?
Okay, so the backstory here.
Aidan
Thank you, Aidan, for shaking
He's
your
just
head.
like, yeah, no.
Yeah. This is how you know you've trained your kids right, when your driver's just shaking his head. So the backstory here is every single year I've been on the team, and probably years prior to that, the question is asked, sir, can we build a swerve drive? And my answer has always just been no. And I actually recently did a call with some alumni mentors a few days ago for 610, and I realized I don't really have a reason for that, other than I just like being able to drive like our robot is built like a tank and just driving into things and around things and off things.
Did you see 148 this year?
I did. And
they drove a swerve drive like a tank.
They did. And
the world is changing. The world is changing faster than we can adapt, you know?
Well, okay, so an interesting phrase that was brought up during that mentor call I'm referring to was maybe the game is evolving to the point where swerve is the new drivetrain. Like that is the drivetrain of choice. Maybe that's where FRC is going.
I don't think the game has evolved in that way. I think the technology has, because I think the biggest obstacle, like going way back when, the first time 1114 did swerve in 2004. This is when swerve was hugely resource intensive. It was like, not only did you have to figure it out mechanically, not only did you have to source custom gears, not only did you have to make some of the freaking gears to do the swerve, you were programming on a microcontroller that was only running in P Basic, and like we didn't even have access to trig, Parth. We were doing all our trig by, I was like writing lookup tables because we did not have trig functions on board. And so like, that's why old timers just see swerve as like the super hard thing. But like, look at where we are now. Like there's no issue with the controllers. With brushless motors, you have really small motors, integrated encoders. You've got a huge amount of power disposable to you. Also, there are legitimate COTS swerve options. 148 swerve this year was just the West Coast product swerve. So you don't need to design something custom to get this high level. You're basically getting 1323's World Championship swerve from last year, or like 2910 Jack in the Bot. Like you're getting these custom swerves that you can just buy. And so everything is changing. And like I used to be one of the loudest mentors in the community about you don't need to do swerve. You don't need to do swerve. But like now, I'm not in that same full 100% decision-making spot on a team like I used to be, but there's a lot to be said that maybe this is going, I don't think the games have evolved, but I do think that the technology has evolved. And with more people playing video games, which are controlled similar to swerve robots as well, there's like, it's one of the things used to be like the driver difficulty of it and like how long it takes to learn to drive swerve. But maybe we're coming somewhere. So who knows what 2021 will bring, but.
Yeah, well, to answer the question, Elon 610, I have a tab open on my computer right now with the West Coast Park swerve modules on it. That's all I'm going to say about that right now, because that's as far as I've gone. I've gone as far as doing my research on it. But if other teams out there are thinking about doing this, while the cost of, Karthik broke it down really well here, the difficulty has gone down significantly, and there's so much support out there within the community about swerve. I will say this, if you do go down that path, please plan to have time for your drivers to practice it. It is a bit of a learning curve. Aidan.
And the code, man. It's like we all just set a tank drive, you just know it's going to do its thing, and you have your positioning system, you have it all set up or whatever. But swerve it's different.
Yeah, it's more controls to think about, right? You've got an entire degree of freedom that you didn't used to have. So I think, definitely plan time for your drivers. I know Aidan enjoyed all the practice time that we gave him, and he was just driving a tank drive robot. So with swerve, I would definitely plan to give him a lot more time with that if that was the path we were going down.
Aidan, you want to jump to another question from chat?
Will do. So just a quick question. From Praneet from 3683. Hey,
never
Parth.
heard of them.
Hey Parth, what have your highest of highs and lowest of lows been as a drive coach for 610?
The highest of highs, the highest of highs, I'm gonna actually not pick a robot thing. My highest of highs as coach was in 2018 when Team 610 won their first and only ever Gracious Professionalism Award at the Durham College event. And the reason for this is because one of the things that I really enjoy that we do on Team 610 is we send our grade 10 programmers out into the abyss of the pits, and we just send them pit to pit and offering assistance to other teams. The reason why we pick grade 10 students is because as a computer science teacher myself, I think it's a great learning opportunity as a programmer when you can step in front of a code base that you've never seen before and likely doesn't have any code comments in it, and you have to try and help them figure out what's wrong with it and or add to it. And I think that learning is great for grade 10 students who are really trying to figure out code. They know how to write the robot code. They have to learn to read other people's code and try and integrate what they know into that and fit their code style. And some of the work that the grade 10 students did in 2018 was amazing, to be honest, but also it was cool to see that other teams appreciated the effort that our team was putting in to help them out. And so that's the highest of highs. Lowest of lows, I mean, I'm counting a lot of semifinals exits. So I don't like that, I guess. The lowest of lows is that for me. There's not a lot of lows when you're a teacher on a team and you enjoy what you do. I mean, even when we get eliminated, like at Durham, there was no tears shed. I know a lot of the boys were disappointed, but at the same time, Aidan, for example, was in during March break, trying to make the robot better. And right until the day that the season was canceled, Aidan was working on making the robot better. So, sorry, postponed. But Aidan was in there trying to change the intake and stuff. So, there's not a lot of lows, or when there are lows, the kids make up for it usually.
We're coming down on time here, but I wanted to ask you one specific question, because you talked about your roots in FLL. But and I think we just in Ontario we relaunched FTC this past season. We had FTC teams here, but back in the day there was FTC's precursor.
Yes.
But that was a part of it, and you started in that program with FTC, right?
Yes. So what is now FTC used to be called FVC, First VEX Challenge, and yes, this is the same VEX that you're probably thinking of. And in 2006, we actually. And this was actually part of our tech curriculum in our tech course at Woburn. We built FVC robots, and we competed at the Ontario Science Centre, which was the only regional at the time. And it was a great event, and it was a great stepping stone into FRC. Developed a lot of my programming talent really in that FVC program, and we built very simple. I would say that what the robot was in 2006 that we built was very 610-esque, in that it was a quick cycle robot. Fortunately, went up against a bit of a juggernaut, thanks Matt Coffey. But no, it was a great learning experience, and I think for teams that are maybe looking to expand into the FTC space, or additional other programming and mechanical challenges that are out there, it's totally worth doing to help develop the base. And I know at Crescent we use some of those tools in our classroom as well.
All right, we're coming down on time here, but I'm going to give Aidan a chance to ask one last question. You've got your teacher on the air in front of everyone, so you can hold him to something. Do you need any extensions on any projects, or?
No, I have to say, of all the teachers with our whole e-learning program at Crescent going on, starting primarily tomorrow, Mr. Patel has been most accommodating. Some of the teachers have not hesitated to give us 7 assignments, a practice test, 2 lessons to be due tomorrow, and Mr. Patel knows who I'm talking about.
Okay, so, easy, calm down now, Aidan.
No, it's not him. It's not him. So I wouldn't say I'd need any extensions. I just like to give a shout out, Mr. Patel. We've had a great season this year for how long it did last, as well as a great 3 years. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that, Aidan. And I just want to thank Parth for joining us on the show. You always have so much to say. It's really cool to give people, kind of back. We're going to go to a video from our sponsors here, but can you, in your best game announcer voice, Parth, throw it to our sponsor video?
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, to round off this segment with Parth Patel, Storytime with Karthik, let's throw it off to our sponsors.
All right, and we're back thanks to our sponsors right there. And always great to see what first careers and for our first alums are up to and what cool stuff's going on. But now we're going to take it right back, and back again. It's Annika with our youth council. So I'd like to introduce Maria, Emiko, and Ishan. Say hello, say to the audience. Annika, I like to see that you've got the power up background going today. And so what are you powering us up with today?
Thanks, Karthik. Really excited to be back for another Youth Council Spotlight with 3 of our amazing Youth Council members. I'd like to start off by inviting Maria, if you could introduce yourself to the viewing audience.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Maria. I'm in grade 10 and I'm on team 7712, and I just joined Youth Council this year.
Welcome. So great to have you. How about you, Ishan? You're back for another spotlight. Tell us again.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Ishan. I'm from Team 2706 from Ottawa. And I was here last week as well, and I'm excited to talk about today's initiatives.
Great to have you back. Thank you. Over to you, Emiko.
Hi, I'm Emiko. I'm from Team 7558. Like Ishan, I was here last week, and I'm also really excited to share what we've been working on with everyone.
Great, me too. So let's get right to it. All right, so you've met our Youth Council panelists. In today's Youth Council Spotlight, we're going to be talking a little bit more about health and wellness. And just to share a statistic with you, 1 in 5 people experience a mental health condition in their lifetime. And so we'd like to talk a little bit about some of the tools and strategies that teams can use to help maintain good mental health, and also talk about some of the ways in which First Canada is trying to raise awareness about these issues and also eliminate the stigma associated with talking about it. So we'll look at a couple of the initiatives that have been taking place, and also hear from our panelists and hopefully from the viewing audience about some of the great strategies that work for you, especially during this time of social distancing. To start us off, for those of you that were able to participate in some events this season, you may have noticed some of these great signs posted around the event indicating that quiet rooms were available. And Emiko, I wonder if you were at an event and maybe had a chance to check out one of the quiet rooms. Could you tell us more about that?
Sure. So we created quiet rooms because we know that competitions are really, really stressful for people. It's a loud environment. There's so much to do and often little time to take a break. So quiet rooms gave people that opportunity to just get away for a little bit, take a few deep breaths. There were usually coloring books, refreshments available in them. I know at Humber we had a quiet room on the 2nd floor, which was a little bit more difficult to find, but it was there. And I think that people were really excited about the concept. At the competitions that did happen, there were quiet rooms there, and they seemed to be a hit. These gorgeous signs were actually made by one of the other Youth Council members. Shout out to Aidan. They look really good. And quiet rooms are definitely something we hope to continue on with in the coming years.
Thank you so much, Emiko, and thanks for mentioning the artist behind these fabulous posters. I also want to give a shout out to one of our first senior mentors, Miss Sarah Sills, and also everybody in the FIRST community and at First Robotics Canada who contributed to making these quiet rooms possible, working with the venues to make sure that we had space for that, and also to everyone for your feedback about how we can continue to improve the experience for users in future years. Also, another initiative that we were looking to implement at events was another way to take care of both your physical and mental well-being is by healthy eating. And both Emiko and many of the other Youth Council members were working together to share locations of restaurants and food services in the vicinity of the different events so that teams could find nutritious options compared with some of the maybe fast food and less nutritious options that are commonly available at competitions. And Ishan, I know that you were helping to get some of these ideas together and wondered if you could share more about this initiative.
Yeah, for sure. So if you went to a competition, at some of the competitions, we actually had these sort of signs sort of telling you where the best areas near campus or near the event where you could eat healthy food. Because as we all know, especially around competition time and when we're at competition, we just look at the closest place to eat, and sometimes that's not always as healthy as we could probably eat. So these type of maps would actually give you an indication of the healthiest area close by. And we actually added an option also so that people at the event can give their recommendations on ideas they believe are good places to go to. Like if someone was at the event, they're like, oh, I like X place here, right? You can add it onto the list and you can sort of let everyone know that there are healthier options to eat close by. Yeah, Emiko, would you like to add anything onto that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I guess the big thing is, and even the phrase fast food really encompasses it. At competition, you want food fast. And it's really just whatever is easiest and whatever is there, you're going to go for it just so you can get something in your system so you can continue working hard at competition. And with these maps, we were hoping to give people alternative options that were also fast because they were on the map, that were just a bit better for you and would hopefully give you more energy and just set you up better for a day of competition.
Thanks so much. And the competitions are just one day out of the whole season or out of the whole year. And I know that during your season at your schools or at the locations where you meet, often fast food and not necessarily the most nutritious, i.e. pizza, is probably a common staple for many teams. And so wondering, what are some of the common foods that you eat at your meetings, and what are some of the changes that you think folks could make in that respect as well when they are able to meet again?
So we had planned to incorporate some tips and alternative food options into some of the posts that were going to be going out later in the season, which hopefully will still manage to get shared eventually. But I know one suggestion that came up that a lot of teams are actually already doing is that sort of potluck idea where each member of the team, or maybe one family per night, brings in a meal for the team to share, which is a really great opportunity for the team to get to know one another and take a break as a group. It's sort of that whole family mentality, which is really great. And it also allows team members to share perhaps their own culture or just share a delicious meal with the rest of the team. That's often also cheaper for the overall budget of the team, I would say, to share food in that way. And hopefully is a healthier option as well.
That's great, Emiko. So not only good financially, but great for team morale and also nutritious as well. And thank you so much. And one of the final initiatives that we're going to talk about briefly on today's segment is the Mental Health Comes First Instagram campaign, which again, many youth council members worked on in partnership with First Canada staff and with Kids Help Phone to share some of these strategies and tips that teams could use to help with mental health and well-being, both throughout the build season and at competitions. And Maria, I wondered, I know you are following closely in the campaign and contributing as well. Wondered if you could share some of your favorite posts and how teams can find out more about these tips.
Yeah, sure. So as most of you probably know, First Canada has been putting out posts on their Instagram every Monday with various tips to improve or maintain mental health, such as in terms of sleep, nutrition, and exercise. So one of the posts that I found the most helpful was actually the first post, the checklist, because I found that it gave ideas to me on like where I could improve and like how I could better my mental health, and also which ways I could possibly support others and suggestions I could give to others who maybe some of my friends who are having a hard time with stress or with homework. And as already mentioned, this was in partnership with Kids Help Phone. And in a lot of these posts, if you actually go on their Instagram, they do have like extra resources and more links to more support pages if you wanted to read more and learn more about it, or just wanted some extra tips in specific areas.
Thanks so much, Maria. And
great idea to check back on Instagram to find out about some of the other posts, and also to check out some of those additional resources given the links in each of those posts. Speaking of self-care strategies, we'd love to turn it over to the viewing audience again to participate in today's Mentee survey. And we'd love it if you could visit www.mentee.com and use the code 717446. And let us know, what are some of the self-care strategies that you're practicing to help ensure your health and well-being during this time of social distancing? Your choices are: take breaks to do things you enjoy, spend time in nature, practice deep breathing, get enough sleep, listen to music, limit exposure to news coverage, get lots of exercise, give my body the nutrition it needs, connect with others, and keep a regular routine.
Seems like everyone's getting some sleep.
Yeah. Ooh, and some exercise. I like that. Tire yourselves out. And as you can see, you can enter as many choices as you like. So if you have several strategies that you're using or that are working for you, please feel free to select as many as you like, or as many as are working for you.
And if there's any strategies that you've been finding really helpful that aren't on that list, you can always feel free to add that in the chat box.
So while folks are submitting their ideas there, Emiko, I wondered if taking breaks to do things you enjoy was one of the strategies that you're practicing at this time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So tell us about some of the things you enjoy doing when you're on those breaks.
Well, one of the things, I mean, I love connecting with my family, and although at this time we are spending a lot of time together, so sometimes it is nice to get a little bit of alone time. I just finished a book that I was reading called The Shape of Family. I don't know if you want to read it. It's a good read. And I've also been doing some puzzles. I think it's also important with that one. Sometimes you might, taking time for yourself is something that I think we don't often get a chance to do during the busyness, especially during the busyness of the robotics season. And there might be a bit of sort of like guilt associated with that. Like you feel maybe bad taking that time for yourself, but I do think it's really, really important. And we're living during a crazy time right now. So you definitely deserve it. Take some time to do something that you enjoy.
Hey, Emik, you brought up a pretty cool point that you've been reading a new book recently, and I was talking to a friend the other day, and he was like, what would be really cool if there was something like Netflix for books, where you could just like sign out books and like read them or whatever. I'm like, dude, that exists. It's called a library.
Library, yeah.
Yeah. But what's crazy is that like libraries are closed right now, but I know in Toronto, for example, where a lot of our viewers are, the Toronto Public Library does e-lending, where you just download the Libby app to your tablet, and you can basically sign out any book out there for free, and you have it for 3 weeks. Like they basically have like restrictions on how many people can have the book signed out at the same time, just like it was a physical book. But there's so much good reading to do, and I know when work is crazy, when school is crazy, there's very little time to read for pleasure. But now that we have that time, it's definitely something that I've been trying to utilize as much as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Overdrive, I'm not sure if that's the
Yes,
correct.
Overdrive.
Oh yeah, Overdrive also is a really great platform to use with the Toronto Public Library. Yeah, for sure.
Those are some great options to access those Netflix for books resource. I love it. Ishan, how about you? Any things that you're taking breaks to do?
Yeah, for sure. So I like music a lot. So I've been playing some piano. I also like Rubik's Cube. So, learning new stuff about that too. And I really like the idea where like right now we're getting sort of some extra time to maybe follow some passions we may not had time to follow before, right? So like learning new things, maybe trying something new, maybe if you want to learn painting or drawing or something new, I think this is the sort of the right time to do something like that.
Absolutely, and hoping that people's priority, the priority that people are placing right now in terms of doing things that they enjoy and that they want to pursue and learn, that they carry that over into a time in the future when maybe they start to get a little bit busier again.
Annika, what are some of the strategies that you've been using to relax and unwind during these stressful times?
Thanks for checking, Karthik. For those of you that know me, I'm a huge nature lover, so trying to get out as much as I can. I find that the fresh air is really rejuvenating, and also a really avid yoga practitioner, so my practices are a little bit longer than they normally are. I find that those two really help a lot, and number one is limiting exposure to news coverage. I sometimes feel actually a bit out of it in terms of what's going on, but I've got people that keep me posted about closures and things like that, so I find it a bit stressful otherwise. And last one, how about Maria? What are some of the things that you take breaks to enjoy at this time?
Yeah, well, now that I've had some time away from school, I've been watching a lot more Netflix and just taking a break in that way. But also reading a book similar to what Emiko and Karthik had mentioned. I'm close to finishing a book called Educated. It's a memoir by a woman named Tara Westover. As it is Women's History Month or National Women's Month in March, I thought it was a really good book, and I would recommend it if you're looking to read some
Yeah, that's a good read, especially at this time.
Yeah.
I'd agree in terms of the really unusual circumstances that she's going through, but the fact that she's still able to educate herself.
And just the determination she has to finish, like regardless of what's happening around her.
That's a really great parallel. It's definitely one that we should check out. And if y'all have any other book recommendations that for people that are looking to sign out some virtual books from the library, please share some of your reading recommendations in the chat. All right.
And one more thing. So we didn't actually ask Aidan. Aidan, what are you doing other than schoolwork?
Well, I'd say I've done similar ones. I haven't been really reading much books, but I have been doing the same thing as Maria. I've been watching a lot of Netflix lately. I've been using the Netflix party occasionally, so I can socialize while also watching Netflix. So.
Yeah, the social aspect's really important. Actually, I tried something last night with some friends. All first friends. Parth was part of it. We actually were playing Jackbox games online. Someone was streaming it, and then we all got on our headsets. I'd never done this before. I'm not like a video game person or whatever, but like we were just like playing these like trivia and Pictionary type games, all from our various computers, and it ended up being a lot of FRC type jokes, you know, kind of with the crew and whatever. But like it was just like a fun way to network and connect. And I felt I think I slept a lot better last night than I have recently, just because, you know, just hanging out with friends for a couple hours for the first time in a while was really refreshing.
Thanks so much, Karthik. And we didn't want to leave you out, and so grateful that you were able to share one of the strategies that's really helping you through this time as well. And speaking of games,
ooh,
dun dun dun,
Kahoot!
We got another. We've got another game for you today. Hoping that if you visit kahoot.it or open the app and enter game pin 4255409, that people will be able to, anyone who's left watching will be able to join and participate in this much shorter Kahoot than yesterday's swag themed game with Swaggy P, Paul Keenan. Of course, prizes will be made available to the winners. And today's Kahoot is related to health and wellness and some of the ways that folks can get support if they need it. I know, I think we had over 76 players yesterday. This one's easy, only 5 questions. Let's see how many more players we can get going.
Yeah, and I'd say in like a game like this, I guess how fast you respond gets really important.
I just love the Kahoot names. I can't get over it. There's a silly ostrich. There's a helpful sloth as opposed to an unhelpful sloth. You know, the sloth probably doesn't help you too quickly, but but if you need something fast, rapid lobster is there. Magic lizard can take care of. Oh, there's a dazzled sloth. This is
I like epic turtle. Just epic anything is.
Yeah.
All right, I think 20 players is going to be good for today. Hopefully you can join after we've started. Oh, Carrying Raccoon just got in there at the last moment. Nice to see you, Proud Elk. And Karthik, can you remind us for the winners of today's Kahoot so that we can get them their prizes? Can you remind us yesterday how people can let us know about that?
What they can do is once the results are displayed with the top three, take a screenshot of that that shows your clear screen name, and then send that to communications@firstroboticscanada.org along with your mailing address, and then they'll be able to get you your prizes.
Great, thank you. Okay, let's do this. Are you ready for question number 1? According to a recent study, who do most teens talk to about their problems or challenges they're facing?
Annika Pint. Is that an option?
Yep, call me. I was actually looking into volunteering for Kids Help Phone because they're in need of volunteers as the number of calls they've been receiving has dramatically increased. So
I was actually thinking of doing that too. Maybe we could do this together.
I like it. Hey, congrats to those of you who picked personal friend. This is the correct answer. Although speaking to anyone of these people, like parent, boyfriend or girlfriend or sibling, about your problems or challenges is really important to do in your times of need. So let's go on to the next question after we see who got in there first with their answer. Congrats, Royal Gorilla. The magic lizard is close on your tail. Next question, what's the main way in which teens share information when communicating with friends about their problems? Is it via text message, phone, face-to-face, or email?
Snapchat the option?
I was going to say, back in our day, I didn't put it on here, but back in our day, it was pen pal. Well done. Okay, you're correct. For most of you picked the text message. That's the correct answer. Let's see who's in the lead. Still Royal Gorilla, followed closely by Magic Lizard, but
Royal Gorilla is fast.
All right. Must be those opposable thumbs. All right. According to a recent study, what is the main reason that teens might not talk about their problems? Is it fear of stigma or discrimination? They think the problem will go away. They are afraid that their parents will find out, or they don't think it is important.
I want to vote E, all of the above.
Yeah.
These are all legitimate considerations.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're all things that could come up for teens as well. There was a recent study done, and so this was based on the results of the teens who were polled or interviewed. But you're right, Karthik, it could be any of these. And by having discussions like these at First Canada, we are trying to reduce that stigma and that goes along with talking about these issues, and hopefully eliminate the discrimination that can come along with that. Come on, expert alpaca, climbing the ladder there. Let's see, 2 more questions to go. We do have time. Good. How much less likely are teens to experience emotional difficulties if they have someone to talk to? Are they 50% less likely, 100% less likely, 75% less likely, or 200% less likely? Give me a math lesson later about percentages. Just go with me. So this one's a bit surprising. They're 200% less likely. And the math is possible, but the point is that it makes a big difference if you do have someone to talk to, which brings us to our final question. Oh,
Magic Lizard takes the lead. Royal Gorilla got shut down.
Come on, you got one more chance, Royal Gorilla. With this question, how can you connect with and get support from a counselor or volunteer crisis responder at Kids Help Phone? Is it via phone, live chat, text, or all of the above?
The animation is like bouncing power cells.
Way to bring it back to robotics. Love it. So thank you. Yeah, it's great that the Kids Help Phone has all of these different ways for people to connect if they need support from a counselor or volunteer crisis responder. Let's check out the final results. Health and Wellness Podium. Magic Wizard in third place. Rocky Dog in second, and in first place, the Expert Alpaca. Congratulations.
So make sure you take a screenshot, send that screenshot away to communications@firstroboticscanada.org, and make sure you give them your mailing address so you can be sent your First Canada swag, brought to you by Swaggy P, Paul Keenan.
Great. Let me just get over here. All right. And so just to wrap it up, wanted to share some additional resources. These are similar to the ones that were part of the Instagram campaign, but please check these out for additional information about things like better sleep, good nutrition, fitness, and even how to help a friend who is experiencing bullying. Just like to turn it over to the Youth Council members if you've got any last words for the audience before we sign off for today's segment.
Well, I guess I could say I really like seeing like that statistic there where I said 200%, right? So it's really important to communicate to others and reach out to resources like these on the screen.
Perfect. Thanks, Ishan. And thank you to the three of you for being part of this segment and for sharing your experiences and insights about this really important topic.
Oh, thank you, Annika, and thank you to our Youth Council for once again joining us for another amazing segment. We know you're going to be back tomorrow. We're going to tee that up in just a second, but I just want to thank all of our guests today for their time. We saw a lot of great stuff. We kicked it off with First Light Elite Junior Discovery Edition, and how we're going to be able to inspire 4-, 5-, and 6-year-olds, and we finished it off talking about mental health and an issue that's really important to teens. And I just want to finish up with some final thoughts of the day on mental health and why it's so important. And we saw with one of the questions in the Kahoot, the stigma keeps people from talking. And we've heard of campaigns like End the Stigma, but we really need to understand that mental health is just health. And if you had a broken arm or the flu and you needed some recovery time, you'd be able to tell people about that. You wouldn't even hesitate to be like, yeah, my arm's broken, I can't really handle this right now. But mental health is just the same. And if you're depressed or suffering from anxiety, this is not necessarily a you thing. Like people can just be like snap out of it. Our brains are complicated, and there's complicated chemicals going on in there. And sometimes things just aren't aligned in the right way. And that's a health issue. And there's no shame in this. There's nothing wrong with you. It's not your job to snap out of it. Your body just needs to recover. It's just like it's the same way. It's not your job to snap out of, and no one's going to tell you stop having a fever. People can't tell you to stop being depressed. And so it's really important to understand that these are real issues, and it's not in your head, and it's not something that you can just fight your way out of. And there's lots of places you can go to talk, but you shouldn't have to be embarrassed. At the same time, you don't have to feel pressured to talk about these things as well. Sometimes they're personal. So it's about finding what's right for you. But we can all work to be really good friends and really good allies when we know someone's suffering, to stand up for them and just remind them that, hey, this is okay, this is normal. Lots of people go through it. I personally suffer from issues like this, have ever since I was 18 years old. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. You're not crazy, you're not weird. It's just, mental health is health, and we all have health issues from time to time. So thank you to our Youth Council for really talking about a really important issue to all of us, and just kind of bringing this stuff to light for the Mental Health Mondays and everything that you've been doing. The Youth Council is just like this shining example of greatness in our first community. So I'm just so proud of all of that. And wow, I'm looking at tomorrow's show, and it is super, super exciting. We got the Youth Council back tomorrow talking about allyship within our communities. That's going to be an important topic. We also have a really cool story. We have 2 story time segments. One, we have One of our lead QRs and Volunteers Appreciation Award winner, Barbara from Team 3683, who's going to be on. We also got a really neat story, a FIRST alum who's gone on to become a member of the FIRST Canada Board of Directors, Jeff Lee. And also, folks, we have the robot reveal that the entire FIRST community has been waiting to see. Team 2056 will be revealing their robot to the world on FIRST Canada Live. So we all get to see that robot for the first time, which is going to be super great. So everyone tune in, spread the word about FIRST Canada Live, tweet about it, post it on Instagram, Snapchat, make a TikTok about FIRST Canada Live, because the show is where it's at. Renegade, 1, 2, 3. We're going to be back tomorrow. It's going to be a fun time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Stay safe, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Let's go.